Hey y'all, I am going to summarize Article 4 in our textbook on mathematics as a language, and I found this to be a really interesting read, a very interesting perspective on mathematics that I've never heard before. Um, the author begins talking about how we already talk about math as a language, but we almost refer to it as a different language, as something foreign. Um, but we should almost look at it as how do we teach languages? How do we teach the art of language and see what we could gain to help us in teaching mathematics? And then the author goes into talking about what are the characteristics of language. And so we say, well, a language has special grammar and things like that. We talk about it as an oral language and a written language. And so we go into the fact that if we think about math where as an oral language, then we need to encourage students to discuss their mathematics with each other, and instead of just sitting in the classroom and working problems. That math isn't always just about the written language, and we can talk through our mathematics with each other. And then we go into actually interpreting math as these different things. So we talk about mathematics as a written language, as an oral language, as a pictorial language, as a foreign, dead, and nonsense language. It's really amazing, and even an abstract language. And each of these is really cool. So it's not hard for us to think of math as a written language because we do think about writing math. We take notes, and we're typically, when we're talking about math or doing math, we're writing. So then we move into oral language. And this I found was really, really cool, that oral language is essential for memory. So it's essential for students to talk about their mathematics. It's essential for them in understanding mathematics. And so it's very important that we think about math in that regard. It's not too hard to think about math as a pictorial language because we talk about graphs and things like that. The author discusses that this is getting a lot easier to talk about math as a pictorial language because of computers and things like that, making these aids, making these symbols a lot easier to convey. And then we talk about math as a foreign language, and this was really interesting to me as well. We think about how, if we kind of, if we do not expose young children to mathematics, then when they get to studying mathematics, bigger numbers and things like this, they see it as a foreign language. They see it as something different that they've never done before. But we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't shelter them so much. We should instead help them to see that when they learn their street address or they learn their zip code, they're truly learning mathematics. Then they're learning numbers. And so I thought that was a really, really interesting way of looking at that. So if you think about math as a foreign language, you don't want it to ever be a foreign language. You want to talk about it at an early age, and expose kids to mathematics at an early age. And I found that really interesting because sometimes with the new curriculum, you'll hear parents say, we didn't learn this math this way, and we didn't do it that way. And so I found that to be such a great answer. Well, if we expose these kids to advanced mathematical concepts in a way they can understand at an early age, we can really deepen their understanding and build a strong foundation for that deep understanding later on. And then we discuss math as a dead language. We don't really discuss it as that because it's more alive now than ever. And so I found this to be interesting in that there are some parts of math that have become sort of a dead language. We use calculators, and they talked about long division being dead. Graphing may eventually, be taken over by just computers and graphing calculators. And I thought, wow, have I seen some things die in my career already? And then they talk about math as a nonsense language and as an abstract language was really interesting to me. The author talks about how even small young children can understand abstract concepts such as honesty and fairness. And so they can understand mathematics as an abstract language as well, if they can understand those things. Um, and so essentially we talk about how we want to move into math being a person's native language. We want students to um, we want students to see math from an early age and feel comfortable with it as a native language. Um, so I thought this was really neat as a math person. I put a heart by this sentence in the book. It's on page 37. Yet if we succeed in making mathematics a native language, there will be a cost to pay. Mathematics is today the province of an intellectual elite, just as reading was some centuries ago. And so, we kind of think that there's just certain people that are gifted this ability in mathematics, but how amazing would it be if it was just as common a skill as reading? So, anyways, I'm sorry I went over the limit. I really, really enjoyed this chapter, if you can't tell, and just wanted to share so many things with you all.